Hey everybody. All right, there we go. Natural.
I hope some of this last year come. Oh. Okay.
All right, so we have 2 minutes. I will not wait because I've got to get this over. And I only have so much time. I can't make her late for her plane.
Okay, we'll wait 2 more minutes. That's till 3:30.
I'm sorry?
I don't have to be there till 3:30.
Well, and it's Tromsø Airport, right?
Yeah.
So it's not
10
like,
minutes away.
Yeah.
There's like 2 people in line at any given moment.
yeah. See, for me, when you say airport, I think of,
Like,
Yeah, like Chicago.
Yeah, it's like, oh God, 2 hours. Take your shoes off, take your
sitting in
off.
traffic in Chicago waiting to
I
go.
did not miss that at all.
Yeah, I went to Tromsø with this, I forgot I had this on, and there's nothing, I didn't lose anything. Like, wow.
You know you can't make it.
Can I do a small introduction?
Can you do this?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah,
the
okay.
part that inhibits it the most. That's what makes the line so long.
Absolutely.
Is the taking off the.
Yeah, whatever, just be careful right here.
All right.
But they finally made it where kids
Okay.
and elderly people don't have to, if you're over a certain.
Well, there isn't really. Him is the only person that didn't already get introduced.
I think he's in a meeting,
Yeah, okay.
so.
Well, maybe I'll just say a little bit about why I was so excited to have Eric here. We've been in contact for several years about this text, which he's going to tell you all about. But one of the reasons why this work is so important is that he really worked to research and represent the Saami in an ethical way. And he would, and this is really important when we talk about Indigenous representation. And he spent a lot of time talking with Saami Americans. So it was like to him at the diaspora moments too. And obviously really worked with the South Saami people. As you can see, he has the approval of South Saami people on the representation. And I felt like I knew him, like for the longest time. He walks in the house, it's like, oh, an old friend or relative just walked in. It was just like, because we've been in contact for so long and in the same sort of discussion and network, and yeah. So I'm really happy that you're here, and I hope you come back. And it's weird because we were both kept like brushing shoulders in North America. It's like, oh, I was in Minneapolis last week. So it's very exciting to have you here. And one of the themes too that we talked about with Indigenous storytelling being sort of collaborative, that the characters, that also comes through in this. And also the way that he produced it. So,
Thank you.
Otis Watson, welcome to this place.
He too. Thank you. Tak so mycket. Tak. Does everyone have a bookmark? All right, so not you. Media studies, you gotta have your bookmark. I never forget his name.
I actually didn't get one.
You didn't get one? You got another? You want to take? Why don't you take another one? Yeah, send it home. Yeah, just spread the love. The website's at the bottom. I first and foremost, I always like to thank the Creator for waking up in the morning and being with you. And not everyone wakes up in the morning, so it's always a great privilege to have another chance to live. I especially want to thank your instructor, Ellen Marie Jensen, and the University of Tromsø. And I also want to thank someone who's not here, Terry Martining in Canada. She was the inspiration for the title of my lecture. I will try to speak very carefully, but do not hesitate to raise your hands if you have a question. Like, what did you just say? You know, that's perfectly all right. I will not be disrespected at all. 3 years ago, I started a graphic novel project based in this part of the world. We know it as Saami. This is part of the homeland for the indigenous Saami people. Nowadays, other folks call it Sweden or Norway. These two books on the screen here are they tell a special story. It's an historical fiction account about the Swedish Queen's adopted African son and his South Saami mentor who saved the future of humanity. This is a story I take seriously, and by the end of the talk, I think you'll know why. I focused on the genre of historical fiction. Historical fiction are stories that take place in the past. Within this genre, there are alternative and fantasy subgenre. My story kind of covers into both, but a little more into fantasy subgenre. I like to say that historical fiction presents unusual facts that come from fantastic reasons. In fact, our ancestors' legends and folklore is really nothing but ancient historical fiction. Sequential art, as you see down there, is a fancy phrase for comic book art. That is, the narration of stories through panels of pictures and text. So I come to you from another colonized land known as the United States of America. It's a rather young colonial force compared to Sweden and the rest of Europe. Both Sweden and the USA were involved in the transatlantic slave trade and in the erasure and removal of indigenous peoples from the lands that they conquered. In my blood are the ancestors of those enslaved Africans and recent Swedish immigrants. I have witnessed, been a victim of, and fought against the white supremacist structures used to define black and indigenous people as inferior human beings ever since I was a little boy. I'll let you take that in before I say anything. Even when I was a guest in Sweden in 2013 on the TV show Afroswedes, I had to endure personal attacks on my African ancestry and my religion of Islam. I also met non-white Swedes who have endured worse treatment. This was a distasteful cartoon that I found in a Swedish newspaper while there. I was appalled that such things existed in modern times. As anti-black and as many can be in the USA, I never see anything like this. Never. It's in a museum or in a book, that's all. But it's never in a weekly newspaper that covers a region. So when I did my own study of the Saami people, I found striking parallels to the treatment of indigenous people in North America. And these two books were quite critical to my writing the story Badin and the Secret of the Saami. And this is Account of the Saami by Johan Turi, which is a classic. Raise your hand if you read it.
They read a chapter last week.
Okay, so y'all got a lot of reading to do in general, but if you ever, get some spare time, whenever that might be, it's actually, it's quite enjoyable to read. It's quite a lot of adventure actually in it. And then we have What We Believe In edited by an interesting individual named Ellen Marie Jensen. Oh, there she is. Oh, wow. I'm right in front of you. You edited that? You wrote the introduction
I can
too,
sign
right?
it. No,
Yeah. Can you sign the screen for me? Because I didn't bring the book. They want to charge me a lot to carry stuff in the country, so,
I'll send you a signed copy.
Oh, it's wonderful. Thank you. Y'all remember she said that now. Okay. So, the Saami people were and are the original people of these lands where we sit. But not just in the north. More and more archaeological evidence is proving that Saami people lived all along the coast of Norway and the southern half of Sweden. When I asked Swedes what they were taught about the Saami people in school, they had very little to talk about outside of the nomadic reindeer herding in the north. When it came to the South Saami, they knew nothing. Zero. Null. And by the way, there's a historian, a Swedish historian, Peter Eriksson, who has a wonderful website and publication that documents the evidence of Saami people in the South Saami people, and it's very accessible, and it was invaluable to my research. And it's called South Saami History. Most of it's in Swedish. One of my great teachers told me, no people or nation can thrive without knowledge of self. So it is for humanity. If we do not know about and respect where we come from the first families that left Africa millions of years ago, to the indigenous cultures who keep those ancestors' traditions alive, all of us are doomed. And I mean that. I believe that colonizers, historians, and scientists have almost completely erased more than 10,000 years of knowledge, tradition, and history of the Saami people. And I know that's a big number, but I can do that. I'm an artist. Before today, has anyone in this room read or heard anything about this man? No? Fascinating. This is great about being in Norway. Sweden generally, like, yeah. But so real quick, some feedback. What comes to mind when you see this picture of this man? Raise your hand, anybody. Or don't raise your hand, you can just blurt it out. He's holding a knight, a chess piece for the knight.
You would think French. That, I mean, obviously he's African, but like, you wouldn't think Sweden.
Huh?
We always think like, oh, French would have, you know.
Anyone else? Anything, you really. This is not a quiz. What's that?
His expression is really, I don't know, unusual.
His expression is unusual.
Yeah, just the way he smiles is very, like, I like it, but I haven't seen it before. In a picture like that.
Yeah?
Not serious.
Not serious.
Yeah.
Seems like it's not serious. Anyone else?
Seems cartoonish, yeah.
It seems what?
Cartoonish.
Seems cartoonish. So, what you're looking at is a man known as Adolf Ludwig Gustav Frederick Albert Badin, named Kushi. And he is the main character of my graphic novel. And we'll get into a little bit of more detail. But I just wanted that discussion to go out there. And then you're going to learn some more right now. Anything resembling a biography of that man is very hard to find. He has been effectively emasculated and erased from history. We have a diary right here. This is my English translation. We had a successful Kickstarter, and I was able to hire translators. So we have one known diary at University of Uppsala in Uppsala, Sweden, and we translated that. That's available free online. You can get on their website on that bookmark, or you can order the hard copy. I don't make any profits from it. It is merely a community service. Then we have Morianen, which is a set of 6 books here. And these are historical fiction books written by a man named Crusenthal. Crusenthal was a Swede in the, who wrote these in the early 1800s. After Badin passed away in the 1820s, he bought Badin's estate from his widow, which we believe comprised of many diaries. And he took the information from that and wrote 6 volumes of the Swedish monarchy and nobility of that time. Then we have The Past Is Not Dead by Alan Pred, which is an excellent book. I recommend anyone to get it. It's written like no other book you've read by a scholar. I mean, he's witty. I can't even explain it. You just have to see it. He plays with words a lot, makes up words, but not to the point of confusion. And then there's this new book, Konga Husets Joker, From Slav Dreng till Slottsidal. So this is the king's joker, from slave boy to the palace idol. And this just came out last month. And he deals with, he actually puts this in his biography, in his bibliography, but he deals with a lot more detailed information about Badin's background. But I don't know what it is with these Scandinavians. They have to use the N-word all the time. And as soon as you open the book, in the first sentence is the N-word. I mean, it just enrages me. Mm-hmm. I just had to rant. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Rant away.
And Joker is like, we're not gonna take this man seriously. Well, I'm gonna after what I'm about to tell you, you're gonna take him seriously. This is my reimagined portrait of Badin. In the 18th century, painters were known to embellish their subjects. This is a Freemason uniform, and that's what he was wearing in that other picture. But the painter added the feathers and the quiver, and it obscured it. It obscured it. In a funny, fanciful, innocent way. It's okay, we're not racist, but we are. Like we were reading in that story, well, I lie, but I'm not a liar. Badin was born into slavery around the 1750s. His parents either gave him up or he was sold. You make your choice. He was adopted by Sweden's queen, Lovisa Ulrika, and she raised him as one of her own children. She trusted him and loved him. He was a member of the Freemasons. He was a volunteer soldier. He owned multiple properties, caretaker of multiple palaces as well. He had one wife, passed away young from illness, and he had a second wife. The second wife, he took care of her mother and her sister. He had one of the largest personal libraries in Europe. He was named after all of the monarchy in Holstein-Gottorp. So Holstein-Gottorp was the Swedish monarchy that was the last bona fide, real, kind of close to real Swedish monarchy. After that, it became French. It was all in kind of, Sweden kind of outsourced its monarchy to France. Interesting dynamics there. My question for you is, would a joker, would a slave, would a jester have such responsibilities, such wealth? Would he be named after the king, the queen, the king and the queen's parents? No. You give him a name like Sambo, or sorry, that's a Swedish and a Norwegian word, something like joker, jester, lackey. And that's what they want to call him. They want to call him a lackey. Now I'm leaving this up there because I want to burn this image into your minds. Many of the facts, the quote-unquote facts we are told, are just not true. And one of the ones that they love to throw out there, that I'm going to throw out there because you're probably going to run into it, is that he impregnated Sophia Albertina, his little sister. And that was fabricated. And that was debunked by Alan Pred. He was a noble. He was of the noble class. You cannot be a member of the Freemasons in the 18th century and not be a member of the noble class. Now, nowadays, you can walk into the lodge and you can pay some dues and recite, and you're a brother or a sister in the Eastern Star. But you cannot be a member of that secret society or other secret societies if you are not one of the noble class. Nor can you do it if people just feel sorry for you. You have to have some brains. Historians and monarchs have almost completely erased 80 years of this Afro-Swedish man's existence. Many fictional stories have been written about him, some of which are absolutely slanderous and emasculating. Does this sound familiar? It's starting to sound familiar. Yeah. All right, here we go. We're going to break it down. Y'all might be familiar with this. Around the time of Badin's life, the science of race was in full effect, and it was being instituted to ensure continued justification of global conquest and control over non-white people, the four races. We can credit a renowned Swedish scientist for codifying this concept that lives on through today. This racial code or scientific law does not really distinguish anyone culturally or physically as much as it elevates light skin over dark skin. And I don't think I need to go over all of this with you, but just looking at that, you see where the European falls, and it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. I'd like to be a European too. Yeah. I certainly don't want to be obstinate and marrying free like those Native Americans. And an Asian is melancholy and stiff. Paints with, God. And them Africans, so crafty and relaxed. And they anoint themselves with grease all day. This stuff is like, is this a joke? But this is science. Let's talk about the subcategories of race. Carl von Linne absolutely despised the Saami people. And this is evident in his designation of the Saami as monstroses. Let that sink in. Monstroses. If you ever wonder why Swedes cannot seem, or even Norwegians, cannot seem to get it right when it comes to dealing with Saami people, you can point as far back as Linnaeus. Because in all of our folklore, who do the good guys kill? The monster. And we have the monstroses. Isn't that such a nice name? You're just a subcategory of a race. You're not even a race. Yeah. Now his contemporary, a Brit named Oliver Goldsmith, he actually joined the Saami with the Khoi of South Africa. They have this wonderful language in it.
Yeah, quick language.
I'm like, whoa! That is fantastic to listen to. And he joined the Saami and the Khoi as the most stupid and ugly members of the human race. Oliver Goldsmith is up there with you look him up, you'll get lots of accolades for Mr. Goldsmith. So essentially, the people of Africa, they're the oldest people of Africa, right? With the oldest language, the oldest traditions, and the oldest people of Europe, places where colonization is like, we're going to take stuff out of the land, are nothing but beasts which we can pillage because they're too stupid to even care. Now these quotes are from a famous African-American leader, and then on the other side, a rising star of advocacy for Indigenous and disabled people in Canada. Now, although these quotes are 40 years apart, they ring true today. In my opinion, they summarize the driving force behind my motivation for creating Badin and the secret of the Saami. So, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in 1973, the so-called Negro is the prey of the white man of America, being held firmly in the white man's power, along with 2 million Indians. So he's not saying 2 million Indians and the white man are holding the black man. He's saying the white man is holding the black man and the 2 million Indians. Don't let that 2 million jumble you up there. It's just, that's part of the ethos of Nation of Islam doctrine. But it is very much rooted in truths as well. Then we have here, just recently, indigenous and black diasporic people are natural allies. Together they challenge racism through stories and help to connect and rebuild communities. So now that we know a little bit more about my motivations, we can talk a little bit about the story. And I'm going to get you out on time. I guarantee it. And you'll be thoroughly entertained with colorful pictures. Here we have 2 people who were born oceans apart. In this moment, they are in the same land. This is from my graphic novel. One has been enslaved, the other was colonized. Both are under constant scrutiny and will likely never be accepted as equals in the land controlled by a system that has designated them as the stupidest people on the earth. And this happens to be from Act 2 of the graphic novel. And this is a fictional meeting between Badin, as a young child, and a teenage South Saami character I created named Galbo. By the way, I created a South Saami characters, fictional, and a Sida, or a community, that were fictional, because I did not want to take any existing community of South Saami people and use them in my story. I felt awful about doing that. So I just said, you know what, just make up your own and let people get on your case about that. I'd rather they get on my case about making stuff up than, wow, you just said something totally false about my ancestral traditions. So here's the cover art for the first mini-saga. Now the mini-sagas are 4 short stories that come before the graphic novel. And with this in mind, I thought, if I'm going to begin, if the genesis of the graphic novel is going to be this first mini-saga, what better way to do it than to focus on the Saami people, an ancient history, talking about thousands of years ago, not hundreds, but thousands of years ago. And since we're talking about a theme about preserving the survival of humanity into the future, you should start in the past and find a link that you can connect. So after the diary translation project, Badin's spirit had pretty much possessed my body and my soul. And I began focusing on the story. And I firmly believed and believe that there can be no Swedish or Norwegian history without Saami history. Yeah. So after digesting all of my research, I began to create a timeline that reached back into the earliest known settlers of this region. And I've seen the scholars are kind of compromising a little bit by calling them proto-Saami. So they don't want to say Saami, you know, I was like, well, you know. So they say proto. So proto-Saami. I have to sound like a scholar a little bit. So just like Badin's history, many of the questions about pre-colonized Saami culture remain unanswered. Yet in the unknown gaps of history, I created fictional explanations that lead to the heart of the plot. And so that's what, I won't read that for y'all. You've seen it up there long enough. So that's the first one. So this is from the graphic novel. So we're going between different books that I have. But this is tied into that first one. And it says this was the first and the last war of the Saami people. That's it's like, you know, there's a fascinating history of Saami people moving, but not necessarily in battles. Glorious battles against the conquerors and stuff. Let's try to, what can we throw in there that could be like, well, why? Maybe they were the best warriors. You know, I had to come up with interesting things. So that ties into the book. Now that's where your fictional comes in, to tie the loose historical things into something as a whole. The excitement of the story continues to build throughout the prequels to the graphic novel, but it also teaches. In these panels, we see the shaman with a gyevre, a drum. As some of you know, these are special objects. And I would even say these are characters in the world of Saami tradition. And thanks to also Verdi Kroik's unpublished thesis, I could understand a little more about the power in it. Now this goes back to that first prequel mini-saga. And so when you read both books, you'll find some insightful literary allusion and repetition of themes. The very important theme is being something greater than ourselves, being something greater than myself. This is, when you're writing a story, it's good to have a theme that you refer to and you always tie back into. And in my case, I want it to be very thoughtful. And that's what it's like to be indigenous. It is, you know, you're not here for yourself, you're here for the future, the people coming after you. This is why you keep those traditions. So this is the second of the 4 mini-sagas. So if going back 10,000 years wasn't complex enough, I jumped up to the 10th century. And I wrote about the journey of a historical Arab explorer named Ahmed ibn Fadlan, whose actual documentation of a Viking-like people, the Rus, is a very important source of early Swedish history. And he's a Muslim too, by the way. Listen, let me really mix this up. And these are some of the questions that these mini-sagas tie into, you know. And this part here about the antagonist in this mini-saga, I can't spoil it for y'all, but everything's got a purpose in what I wrote, everything. So my fictional version of Ibn Fadlan slightly resembles the same character in a movie called The 13th Warrior. However, my fictional Ahmed was probably more accurate in appearance. Although he never met South Saami people that we know, his role is very important in my story. Again, using techniques of literary allusion and repetition of themes, I tie the characters in this mini-saga to the characters in the graphic novel. So I'm taking unusual and unwanted people and shining a light on their true value. So this is the first illustration you'll see when opening the graphic novel book. A reindeer in the rain. Isn't that cute? You trying to be cute? No, actually, that's an allusion to the first page. I won't spoil that for you as well. But so the reindeer, as many of us know, are the source of sustenance for the Saami people. As I see it, personally, they are the reminder of the god or the gods of mercy and beneficence. So as a Muslim, we are supposed to initiate all acts, all things that we do in the name of God, in the name of Allah. May your Bismillah, in the name of the God. Many indigenous cultures do similar things by asking the plant or the animal they will consume or use for permission. Before I addressed you, I made sure I acknowledged the Creator and all the people that made this trip possible, right? I always think about symbolism and respect. And I really wanted to show big, giant, mature antlers, and there's an artistic element called the golden spiral. And if you ran the golden spiral, it perfectly matches to this eye. It goes up there. I use a lot of artistic techniques to try to draw people's eyes when they read the book into certain directions. So, I sincerely hope that this project, Badin and the Secret of the Saami, will inspire Saami youth to pick up the mantle of their elders and take the Saami people to the next level and help the Afro-Swedes and other Swedes of foreign backgrounds in their struggles. I also hope that this inspires my Afro-Swedish and Swedish of foreign background friends to learn about and join with the Saami people in their struggles. Although our African ancestors are the source of all peoples throughout the world, there is no place that they cannot call home. We must help preserve the land and respect the indigenous cultures where we live. We cannot ignore it, cannot erase it. Our future and the future of humanity depends on it. Regardless of the current structures and power in place, this is the land of the Saami people, and we are their guests. Let us set an example as Afro-Swedes for everyone to follow. Thank you. Question? Please.
So how did you come across Badin and his story? Like, how did you find him?
So a friend of mine named Hussein Aviva, he's a real history, he does textbooks and stuff for history books, and he knew I was going to Sweden. He said, he showed me the Wikipedia article of Badin. He said, man, you need to look this fella up. Maybe you can find out more about him. So that's how I found out about that. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. But he's one of the most popular Swedes of African descent in history. Probably not European, but up there. Yeah. Anything else? Ask me anything you want. There's no secrets. I mean, there's my book if you want to look at it and say, hey, what did you mean by page 44 when you said, please follow me? You know, yeah, I'll pass this down. We'll start with you because you came last. Yeah, but last is sometimes best.
How was you said you had like the support of the South Saami in Sweden?
Well, actually, in the introduction, Ellen stated that. I'm not so magnanimous about myself, but I did have help from South Saami people in regular folk and scholars. So I'm sure there's a lot more I could have done, but at a certain point you gotta just move on and just hope that you don't blow it. You know, yeah, definitely. I would not have this wouldn't. I was constantly questioning.
Consulting.
Yeah, especially that North American Saami Facebook page. I would read things and I'd put it out there. Hey, what is this about? You know, and people
there knew of people in Saami.
Yep.
This is the diaspora link, which
Yep.
I think is so cool that this North American Saami community and allies knew where to send you.
And Ellen was one of those people I was sent to, and she told me, Jennifer told me, she said, if you don't pass the smell test, you'll know it. Ellen will tell you. So I didn't hear much from Ellen. She's very busy, so I figure I'm doing pretty good.
If you don't pass the smell,
That's really true.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, okay.
I was like, it's all right. This is gonna go.
Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
Could you tell something more about reindeer you chosen not one for the first
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah.
And especially in connection to gods, in symbolic of reindeer and gods.
Okay, so God, I'm using these I'm interchanging them because of where I am and the people who I'm talking with. I like to speak the language where I'm at. The most ancient symbol of the divine, I'm using kind of Western terms, but I think you understand, of the divine creator, the force, the God, is a bull. Throughout history, you got to go to the antiquities of Asia and Africa, North America. You will find that. And the bull is a symbol of, when it comes to white supremacy's dominance over indigenous people, over original people, they use the symbolism of slaying a bull. So you may have noticed in Spain they have the matador, and they're always, what kind of bull are they slaughtering? In the rain in Spain, it's a black bull.
Yeah, it's black. I was gonna say that.
Yeah, but that's not by it's not by accident. It's not by coincidence. So your black hair. I was reading in Johan Turi. He was talking about the different types of ulda. Y'all familiar with ulda? Maybe.
Underground people.
Yeah, and they're similar to giants, but not quite giants. They're like giant.
They're little. They're smaller than us.
I've also heard there's some giant, but yeah.
Okay, that's Talu.
Stalu, but
Talu's a giant. Uldat are small.
Ulda are always small.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
Gufitar, Uldat, they're kind of different dialects,
Well,
but they're small.
Thank you.
They're a little bit smaller than Sami people. That's.
Thank you for correcting me. But he said there's some Uldat that you can trust and some that you can't. And he said, watch out for the ones that you can't trust, because they are looking for the most beautiful children that have black hair and black eyes or something like that. There's this. You look at these things and you try to work with that. So the horn is I see the long history of God in culture. Not just my little Islam that I pray 5 times a day for. That's good. That's what I do. That's my path. That's my discipline. But before that, there was something. Before that was codified. So the Sami people, their ancient traditions. I'm in Sweden. The book is about Sweden. You gotta have the reindeer. Yet when you look in the graphic novel, you don't see a lot of reindeer. I was actually thinking of bringing Gaktu and Gelbu to Stockholm when they went to the palace on reindeer. I'm like, nah, you're going to put them on horses. Put some reindeer, let people see reindeer in the art, in the background, but I'm not going to shove it in people's face to make it like a stereotype. Because I do not want people to read about the Sami people as, oh yeah, just reindeer herders. And reindeer herders. It's not like the reindeer means anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sami would say there's reindeer first,
Yeah.
and then there's the herd.
Yeah.
The reindeer went to Alaska with 50 herders. That's how it was framed in the Sami narrative.
That's it. Yeah.
The reindeer went there, and some Sami went with them.
And there's so many names of reindeer, right? Like there's so many different names, and it's like God has very many different names. And I'm just trying to, put this together because I want to tell a story. I want to inspire people. And I want to redeem people who were thrown in the trash. So Badin and the Sami people thrown in the trash, I'm going to pull them out. I want to clean them up and send them on their way. Because they're going to do their thing, And to this day, I'm hearing people in Sweden, especially black people, say, Badin is our black prince. So I'm changing the dialogue, I'm changing the words, the language people are using. Any other questions?
Yeah. Okay, so you were on Afroswedes, and I've been living in Norway since like January, and I was here last year for 6 months too. And I've noticed that Scandinavians are way more racist than they realize. It's a different kind of racism in the United States, but it's there.
Yeah.
It's like, for example, Norwegians will talk about immigration in a negative way around me, but I'm an immigrant. Like, I'm an American. If I stay here, I'm an immigrant.
That's right.
And so I'm wondering what your experiences are as, you know, a Black American with Swedish heritage on Afroswedes.
Yeah, it was hell. I hated it. They gave me the family history. I gave it to my mom and said, take it because I'm going to burn this stuff. This was, when I was there, I was told from the minute I got off the plane, you don't belong here. You don't look like us. You're not one with us. When they found out I was a Muslim, some of them made sure that I understood that I was, and my religion was the cause of all the wars in the entire universe. And, you know, I don't appreciate American values and freedom of speech. I mean, all this just absolute stupid stuff. And I'm not a party man. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't crack dirty jokes. That's what they did. I don't do that. I was there to learn. I came to learn. I came to reconnect my mom's side with this side here. But I wanted to get out. I was miserable. And I was so happy. You'll see me on that last episode. You'll see me like, I just told them people what I thought. And I was like, get me on the plane now. I couldn't wait. But now it's been reset. Because Badin, the secret of the Saami, is my gift to Sweden. And they can't choose the gift. They can't choose it. But I know my gift is good for Sweden. I really do. For all people, you know.
You did a wonderful thing too, because you did incorporate a Swedish Saami ancestor. I mean, a Swedish ancestor.
A Swedish ancestor. I forgot about that. Yeah.
A Swedish ancestor.
Swedish.
So
Yeah.
I love how
She's
you
my
have.
yep.
I love how you have all of these characters. You have a peasant Swedish girl in alliance with the Saami and in alliance with an African Swede. I mean, he brings in the class, the peasant, you know, which is crafted from his own Swedish ancestor. I mean, that's what I'm talking about, this idea of representing collaboration rather than conflict.
Yes.
He's showing,
Yes.
okay, we're taking this thing, we're turning it into a collaboration. And my daughter loved it. She was like,
Yeah, she was nice. Yeah, she really broke it down to me.
yeah.
And Badin was just ahead. He was just like, he was like, I got an idea. And they were like, I don't think we want to do that. And he's like, let's go.
Mm.
You know, and then there's Sophia, you know, my ancestor, Anna Olsdottir. She's my far. But you know, and she's also a descendant of an immigrant from Finland. And of course, I've had some smart-mouthed Swedes tell me, well, you know, you're not Swedish, though. No, actually, they said Finland is Sweden.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the 1600s.
Ooh.
So I said to him, well then, why when her ancestors came from Savolax to Hellefors, why did the Swedish authorities harass them? They were immigrants. And there's an outdoor museum dedicated to this ancestor of mine. It's called Finnstugan. And you can go in the summer and they reenact Simon E. Songen's arrival to Hellefors.
Did you do it?
I didn't, I haven't been able to see it. But it's on YouTube. You can watch the whole thing. It's really cool, you know. Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of Swedes are like, yeah, Finland, you know, it's actually Sweden. You know. They love that.
Yeah.
Not all, but some.
Yeah. Norway was actually Denmark.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Really. That's why I didn't put it too much on transatlantic slave trade for Norway, but there's still responsibility.
It's in there.
It's still there. So anything else, and then I guess that'll wrap it up.
When was it, like, when was it
May.
May this year.
I self-published it. Yeah, May.
He sold out. He had a lot with him.
Yeah.
He's on a tour, so he was in
So
Sweden.
how was it like? How did they react in Sweden?
Yeah, I've had very positive response. A lot of support.
Yeah.
A lot of support.
He's been hired now to tell about that. Maybe. He's been hired-
Museum of Ethnography in Stockholm, they're the ones that actually flew me here. So I'm actually like milking as much time as I can get while I'm here to do everything I can. They flew me in for Afroswedes Historia Vecka.
Oh.
Okay, so Afro-Swedish History Week. And so they focused on Badin and Sweden's role in the slave trade, other characters in the slave trade. And they gave me a lot of work to do. And one of those was a project, a commission, that is regarding, I can say it, Anders Sparman, who was an abolitionist from around that time, and he would have been a contemporary of Badin. So I'm not going to tell you the story, but they hired me. I wrote the story. I wrote the script. I just have to do the artwork now, and they approve of it. And if they like it, they say they want to maybe hire me to do some more things to help them tell history in a fun way. Yeah. Yeah.
I just had a comment because in the late 90s, there was also in Canada, there was a graphic novel comic published about the leader for the Métis people, who they real. But what I always felt was missing from it was that the person who did it didn't collaborate with the Métis people. And so a lot of the times the drawings and the illustrations don't hit the mark. They miss it quite badly.
Yeah.
But I always thought that it was a really great medium for the history to show. So I really like that you collaborated with the people in order, because otherwise it loses all meaning.
Thank you. I really care about that. I just have to say I really care about the Saami people and what they go through and have gone through. And I do believe that they are the future in this part of the world, you know. And I don't want to mess that up. No. I can easily write about Africa and black struggle because of my identity. I'm not playing games with indigenous people that I don't have any known, ties to through my family. It's already been done. I'm not going to repeat that.
Yeah, I think it shows through the respect.
Thank you. And I was asked during our panel discussion in Stockholm, so how do you handle, racism and white supremacy with your story? And I said, I go right past it. Not that it doesn't exist, but I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what your white supremacist ideas are, your world is coming to an end. Your solutions are in these despised people that you think are inferior. So it's like, the house is burning, the fireman's here, but guess what? He's wearing a gak tee, the other one's got kinky hair. You're going to tell him, no, it's all right, I'd rather burn to a crisp. No, they're here, and they're going to take you out. Or you can stay if you want. And we've had people do that. They voted for that orange demon. And that's what they want. They want to burn the house down and stay in it. Go ahead and keep it.
I had a question in regards to the production side of things in terms of how you made or created the comic, because I could imagine it required like economic support, material support.
Yeah, economic support. I wish. And it was frustrating. It was so frustrating to get rejection after rejection. And then the people that did respond say, this is a great story, but I don't know how to sell it. I'm like, you people want diversity. What do you got, black and indigenous characters in Sweden? What do you want? Zombies? So I mean, they want zombies. That's what they want. But I'm not giving it to them. But so I had to self-fund this, and I went broke. I'm still suffering for it. Some people think I'm making money. I ain't making any money. When I get home after this vacation, 80 hours of work I have to do. 120. I'll never catch up. Never. These books, I made 25 cents on each book I sold here in Sweden. There's no profit. This is all for a cause. And I so believe in this that I'm sacrificing. And thank God my family hasn't left me and they do support me. You know, but I borrow a lot of money and I don't like doing that. So the production side, I wrote a 10,000 word plot. And then I wrote a full script for 4 acts. Full script is like a screenplay with art direction, with a vision. Then after that, I did thumbnail sketches of each page with each panel. I used artistic techniques to build out images from abstract shapes. So there's so much of the composition of the graphic novel, I consider it a part of the spirit. It is purely spirit. It wasn't, I am going to draw this window here and the face there. No, it actually was abstract shapes of black paper on white. It fell, and then I blocked out composition that way. I wanted this to be a totally not me project. So that the spirit, whether you want to say Allah, God, the gods, was driving this and not me. After that, I did my penciling, inking, lettering, color in a program called Clip Studio Paint. And then I exported those pages out and I built that book in Adobe InDesign CS3. I don't need the cloud. And you export PDF from there. And then you proof it. Yeah. So there you go.
Wow. That's
A
great.
grueling
I
3-year
didn't know you were
process.
so funded. Dang.
3-year process. 3-year process. And I really wanted to get funded. I really needed a publisher. I needed an agent. I really did. And and you're limited when you're historical fiction and graphic novel. There's a lot of agents out there, but not a lot do historical fiction, not a lot do graphic novel.
Yeah.
And then some of them are specific. They want zombies, or they want transgender, or they want women. So I'm like, I just wasn't fitting in anything. It was frustrating.
Well, I hope that this project with the museum is going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be.
Yep, that would be good.
Okay.
Oh, good. It didn't cut off.